Hi everyone. My name is Pinak Paliwal. I'm a freshman at Berkeley studying doing a dual degree in business under the MET program. And today I'm here to talk about JIMM, which stands for JAX Image Modeling of Models. So before I continue, I just want to thank Dr. Tobias Wan in the TPU Research Cloud. So Dr. Tobias Wan has helped me with a lot of the core ideas behind some of my other projects that utilize JIMM and JIMM itself. He's also been very, very helpful in getting the compute resources that I need in order to work on JIMM. And I'd also like to thank the TPU Research Cloud for providing some of the more compute resources that I need to develop JIMM and some other projects alongside it. So what is JIMM? I've been mentioning it. So currently, TIMM is a PyTorch image modeling library that implements many common computer vision models. I think they implement close to 783 models currently. And so JIMM aims to be the Flax NNX and JAX equivalent to TIMM. So TIMM has a lot of libraries. It uses PyTorch, and while TorchXLA and Torch AX, and I presume there are some more other projects that can help transpile between PyTorch and JAX, you ideally want to have something that's more JAX native, that is more Flax NNX native, that also makes it incredibly easy for you to use the standard JAX transforms. So what JIMM offers you as an end user is very small implementation that you can use in your own research code without much overhead from the JIMM library itself. And at the same time, if you want to use JIMM itself and the library itself, you have a similar high-level API to Hugging Face transformers. So if you are more on the PyTorch side, it's very easy to transition to using JIMM. And one thing that we're working upon right now is adding the actual fast model preprocessors. So currently, Hugging Face transformers has your image processor, your text preprocessor, and they also have it for CLIP for both of them. But these aren't as fast as, let's say, a TensorFlow operation. These aren't as fast as, let's say, what we ideally want to make JIMM to be. So we're working upon this, and we'll make it faster in some time. So currently, JIMM implements many common model architectures, such as vision transformers, CLIP, OpenCLIP, and mobile CLIP through the different weight loading mechanisms. And we also implement SigLIP, Dino V1 through V3 to come, and AIM V2. And one of the key things that we offer is that you can load from any Hugging Face weights. So if you want to load from, let's say, a fine-tune of CLIP downstream, or if you want to load from, let's say, a different fine-tune of SigLIP, or you want to load from the original CLIP and SigLIP, of course, you can do so. And you can load from PyTorch model.bin, you can load from model.savetensors, and you can also load from Orbax. And you can save to Orbax and save tensors, albeit all the Orbax stuff is handled through Flax NNX rather than anything that we have to do. So here's an example of using JIMM. So it's relatively similar to Hugging Face transformers. You just load your vision transformer, you can use it. One of the key things that we also utilize is that you can switch up the parameter D type. So if you want to save your parameters in bfloat16 on TPUs, if you want to do the computation in bfloat16, you can do that too. Currently, you can see here we're using Hugging Face transformers for the preprocessor. Ideally, we want to remove transformers out of the stack entirely so that you don't have to install two different gigantic libraries to do this. And so more on the implementation of how JIMM is implemented itself. You can see a little tree notation provided from Gemini CLI. You can see that JIMM itself is a rather concise library. We implement the CLIP vision model, CLIP text model, and the CLIP class overall. Same for SigLIP. And for vision transformer, we implement the vision transformer. So we support pre-training with image text on any scale. And we'll talk a bit more about how we achieve the sharding a little bit later. And also fine-tuning downstream with only your vision transformer or only your text model so that you can do your big pre-training run and then do post-training on, let's say, PyTorch GPUs and make it also very easy to use. So some of the key things that we do for sharding is we use logical access annotations. I think that they're used quite a bit within MaxText and some other Google repos. I think public documentation for it maybe isn't as good as maybe it is within Google. And so one of the key things that logical access annotations allow you to do is you can switch up over here. We have this big class, and there's more below this that I couldn't include because the slide is only so big. You can change how you shard the model itself from a downstream perspective rather easily. So in the PyTorch world, you have your FSDP wrapper class that wraps how you do FSDP. You don't really have very fine-grained control. JAX offers a lot more fine-grained control over how you do your sharding. And so one of the things that we do is we can give you the opportunity to do your default sharding using the default sharding mesh rules class, but you can also change it. So if you, let's say you have many, your layer norm is, let's say, very small, then you don't want to do FSDP, or if your CLS token is incredibly large, you can also shard that via FSDP. So this makes it very, very easy to do. Once you set up your mesh and you just git compile it, you get very, very easy to do FSDP, data parallel if you don't want to do any sharding at all, or tensor parallel training. And of course, you can change the mesh rules to however you want. So actually how we do this is in our initializers ourselves. So this is, I believe, for the vision transformer base architecture itself. And you can change the kernel in it, and you can change it to the mesh rules for a different hash conv for your number of channels, for your conv out, and for your CLS token, you can shard that as well over the batch and any other dimension. So one of the key things that we offer you as an end user is that you don't have to do any of this logic for yourself. It makes it incredibly easy to do your own pre-training and post-training downstream. Now, one of the other things that I'd like to mention is that we also support both the CLS token and multi-head attention pooling. OpenAI's CLIP uses CLS token. SigLIP uses multi-head attention pooling. We offer both of them because we offer both CLIP and SigLIP. And for downstream, if you don't want to use any of these base model architectures, you can, of course, provide your own config with your own CLS, multi-head attention pooling, or you can do, in the future, we'll also offer the opportunity to do other types of pooling mechanisms so that you can do your own different model architecture research. One of the key things that JAX also offers you is gradient checkpointing. Here, I think it's relatively straightforward. You just, in your model instantation, you can set up gradient checkpointing. So you can just say, if you want to use gradient checkpointing, just set the flag for it and it will checkpoint properly. If you also don't want to do gradient checkpointing, you can also not do that. JAX by default will also do some maneuvering and do JAX pointing whenever it feels like it's necessary based upon some heuristics using jax.shit. If you don't use jax.shit, then you can also do things a little bit differently. So one of the things that is utilized a lot more in the LLM world, and hopefully you can see this a little bit more in the CLIP world and computer vision world, is different D types. So in the LLM world, I think you're going all the way down to NVFP4, which at that point is not really a floating point, but that's up to you to decide. So out of the box, JIMM and Flax NNX in general supports pre-float 16 and float 32. One of the main things that we want to see downstream is also providing quantization via quicks. We have a little bit of a prototype that I'm working upon right now, in which we're trying to do int8 and maybe even lower D types. However, this is not really a priority for most use cases because, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think anyone is really doing FP4 pre-training on CLIP or SigLIP. Maybe downstream you can see some more work of this. Maybe I'm just not familiar with it. But to my knowledge, it's not being done. And here you can see a little bit more of a demo of loading with a loading from Hugging Face Hub with a model that only has a PyTorch model up in, using use PyTorch equals true, with different D type for computation, different parameter D type as well. And so this is all you need for quantization, loading from PyTorch weights. Of course, this doesn't include gradient checkpointing. This doesn't include different mesh rules. This doesn't include your NNX RNG. But this is
pretty close to what you'll get for using JIMM.
So, a quick question on the quantization side. You mentioned about the quantization is not a priority, right?
Yeah.
Because all the models are not trained with quantization, right? Can you do like post-training quantization?
I mean, yeah. When we save the safe tensors, you can do quick quantization. I think right now, I haven't seen. I think OpenAI's CLIP was trained in TF32. I think maybe SigLIP was trained in bfloat 16 or float 32. So for the computer vision side, it's maybe not used as much. Of course, we want to support it because I think as int8 has like double the flops that you could theoretically get on I think on V6E and maybe Ironwood, we do want to support it eventually. I think it's just that we want to also implement many model architectures before that. But yeah.
So a follow-up is, today like all the large language model, right? They care a lot about quantization, right? Because they can run faster. Is it the same thing for the vision model as well?
Yeah, you can do quantization once you're done training with it. So if we look at the safe tensors, there are a lot of libraries, I think, already out there that can do quantization upon the safe tensors itself. So that's, I think, you can just save to safe tensors, do your quantization using PyTorch if you want to do post-training in PyTorch. If you want to do it in JAX, you can use quicks. I just haven't done all the extensive testing that I need for all the models that we have and just double-checking all of that. That's still to be done. But more, if you have any other questions, if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to ask. But one thing that we also offer with JIMM is checkpointing the safe tensors, because a lot of, at least for me, when I wanted to do a lot of this, a lot of the CLIP pre-training sort of regime, a lot of things require that
I use JAX just due to the scale and just because of where I got TPUs rather than GPUs. But if I have GPUs for post-training, which maybe it only uses, max 8 GPUs, I can just use PyTorch, and sure, maybe I won't be as efficient. Maybe it will be just some more work to do. But one of the key things that requires is that you have checkpointing within state tensors itself. So one of the things that we offer you as an end user is you can just save a lot of time by not having to worry about ORBACs and then converting that to state tensors. And we can just do all the mapping and renaming logic for you. And so this is full compatibility with Hugging Face transformers. So you can do you can load from the Hugging Face hub using JIMM, do your model training all in JAX on TPUs, then save the state tensors, and then load the model using PyTorch, Hugging Face transformers, and do post-training on GPUs. This makes it really, really easy to switch between TPUs and GPUs. This also makes it really easy because I find safe tensors to be very compatible with PyTorch, TinyGrad, TensorFlow, maybe even, and JAX, of course. So safe tensor checkpointing works with multi-node FSDP. So you can imagine if all your parameters are sharded across all your different TPUs, it might be a little bit of a pain to maybe all gather them. So we handle that all for you with jax.jit and also nnx.jit. You can also use ORBACs out of the box. We don't really do anything special for that. That's something that you manage more as the end user. And we support safe tensors for both the vision, the text, and the overall model. So if, let's say you do your fine tuning on only the clip vision model, you can then use that vision transformer, checkpoint it with safe tensors, do the same for the text model, same for the overall model, and that makes it relatively straightforward. So I think from my perspective, when I was implementing this, I didn't really have much perspective on how to do this. So at least if, maybe you're not using JIMM at all, maybe you just think that it's kind of neat to have safe tensor checkpointing, that's how you would do it. Maybe I just didn't look properly. Maybe it exists out there, but this is my way of doing it. And so here's an example training loop. We can go a little bit more into it, but I think the real core thing of what makes JIMM relatively straightforward is that you just have this one function, defines the optimizer, your clip model, shards it all properly, and you get a nice sharded model across all your accelerators using FSDP or whatever other mechanism that you propose. So with that being said, I can just show you real quick just how quick and easy it is to do all of this. So there is some code related to the data loading. Keep in mind the data loading is not anything, it's not an actual training loop here. It's just using fake data just to show how to do it, also make it a little bit more concise. So we are using tf.data. In the future, maybe I'll switch to grain because of the last talk, and I thought grain was pretty cool. So we do have some config values. We're loading from a Hugging Face model that doesn't have a model.safe tensors on it, just to show that you can load from PyTorch models, relatively straightforward. There are some pre-processing steps for text and image. In this case, we're using quote-unquote synthetic data, so it doesn't really apply here. And for the clip loss function, it's using all standard JAX and optax for the loss function. And for the train step, we're using nnx. You can switch to jax.value.grad because I think now, as the nnx talk we'll talk about a bit later, I think they've gotten more to the portion where they can use native JAX transforms. And so the main thing is down here, where you create the sharded model and optimizer, and you're able to get a relatively straightforward way of creating a sharded model, doing training upon it across all your different TPUs. I would show the training loop, however, on Google Colab, you only get one free TPU, and I don't think you really get to see much of the value of the sharding if it's only one TPU. And also it requires, at least for this clip model, requires a decent bit of memory that a V5e or V60 doesn't really offer, a singular one. And so yeah, it's a relatively straightforward process from here. You just define the in-shardings, out-shardings, and it's relatively straightforward to do. And so yeah, you just set the model.train, you set it all properly. And we also have a profiler trace, which I'll talk about a little bit after this. So here we have this profiler trace where we are compute bound in this case. Now ignore the first barrier cores, that's mainly just due to the data set being very, very slow. I did not optimize it. But if we look more at the actual profiler trace itself of the actual computation, skipping the data going to the device, you'll notice here that we do have pretty good utilization of the hardware. XLA does fuse some of the gradient checkpointing because it does realize that you don't need a gradient checkpoint if, let's say, your actual array is very, very small. But of course, you can always use gradient checkpointing if you want to. So in this case, we have
a profiler trace. It's just doing a bunch of transformer layer logic going through all of it. And at the end, you do notice that you do have some network communications to actually fulfill, given that the matrices are all sharded, you do have to combine them all at the end. So one of the other things that we notice here is that it doesn't seem like there's many bubbles due to communication. It seems like it's mainly just computation. This is ideally what you want for scaling your clip model. And I believe this was used using a batch size of 8 per device, using a V6E. If you're using a V4, sorry. If you're using a V4, I think you can push it all the way up to 128 images and text pairs for the clip large variant, which allows you, let's say 256 TPU scale. That allows you to get a clip batch size equivalent to what they use in the original clip paper. And for SigLIP, you can get even further optimizations, albeit I didn't use it in this example. So the main thing I really want to talk about is how you can contribute to JIMM. So the main thing that we really want to do is adding a lot more model architectures. As I mentioned a little bit before, TIM has, I think, close to 750, even maybe a little bit more now. And so we're at mainly like 3, if you define it technically as the text model is different or the overall model is different than the vision model it's alone. Then sure, maybe we have 12, but that's still orders of magnitude less. So the main thing we really want to get focusing on is adding clip with vision registers, OMO Earth, because I like geospatial work, and I think OMO Earth is very impressive. It's also relatively straightforward to implement compared to some other things. Dino V1 through V3, AIM V2, and AIM from Apple, and NVIDIA's radio, because NVIDIA's radio, I think, is close to state-of-the-art on ImageNet 1K zero shot. The main thing we also want to add is preprocessors to JIMM so that we can make our dependency on Hugging Face transformers. Ideally, we don't want to have a preprocessor dependency just be that gigantic Hugging Face transformers library. And the main thing that would make, I think, me happy is if you use JIMM in your research work to save you a lot of time so that you don't have to implement clip and all this sharding over and over again, ideally for all these models as well. So yeah, with that being said, thank you very much for listening. You can find the GitHub repo of JIMM above. You can find the documentation below, and you can find my name, my email. I can give you any communication you want. If you want my Instagram, LinkedIn, chess.com if you so prefer. You can have all of those things after this.